Welcome into the Thunder Basketball Universe presented by Summer Moon Coffee. We're recording this episode on Tuesday, July 15th, which means we are in the throes of the offseason, but that doesn't mean that it's quiet around these parts here in Oklahoma City, and particularly in Las Vegas, where the Thunder is in full Summer League action right now. We're going to break down everything that you might have missed, some major storylines. I was out there for a couple of days. We'll recap some of that. But first things first, we need to talk about the incredible season that the Thunder had. And before we even get into that, it's been about 10 days since I've seen Nick Gallo.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Feels like an eternity. How are you, man? You good?
I'm great. I feel like you've been all over the world.
A little bit. It feels like it.
I have hardly left my square radius around my house of a mile or two.
Your nest. You just stayed kind of put, which is good because, I mean, during the course of the season, you're just like, here, there, all over the place. Yeah. If it's not practice, it's a game, it's travel. So I bet it felt nice to sit still for a minute.
It's been glorious. It's been glorious. Good. We've got a little family vacation coming up soon. But
fabulous.
I'm glad that you kind of just kept on rolling, basically. after the season ended, after all the press conferences, and the parade, you just kept rocking.
Once you get into the swing of just being on a flight every other week, you just can't stop that momentum. So I was like, you know what? Let me go visit my family out in the Northwest, and then let's go out to Vegas for a couple of days, which was really cool. And I'll break down everything that I saw a little bit later. But the first thing that we want to dive into, typically, this is Summer Moon's stat of the week, but no. We're going to go into Summer Moon's stat of the season, and then we're also going to go into Summer League and what's brewing. A lot happening in this podcast. Up first, though, we got to talk about some housekeeping, some news that came out for Oklahoma City. A lot of extensions signed for this Thunder roster. How about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, J-Dub, you had Chet Holmgren, and Ajay Mitchell and Jalen Williams.
Well, we're going to talk in just a little bit about all of the amazing season-long stats that include regular season and playoffs. And it's an incredible year that the Thunder just capped off. And so how remarkable that the Thunder is set up in a situation where they can put pen to paper and extend the continuity of this group moving forward. You know, so often in the modern environment, teams may get to the top of the mountain the way that the Thunder did, but then suddenly be looking at a situation where the entire roster has to flip over, or some of the main core pieces. What the Thunder has done this summer is solidify, the trio of Shai, J-Dub, and Chet, that they can be here through the rest of the decade if the Thunder so chooses, and that you've got these great role players who are still locked up on deals. Everyone essentially returning from the team. Lou Dort still under contract. Alex Caruso on a long-term deal. Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins on long-term deals. J. Will, AJ Mitchell also locked up to long-term deals here this summer as well. So to be able to keep the continuity together, this core group together, Kenrich Williams also under contract for another season or two. And so this group can stay together here. And it's so special to see that coming off of what they just accomplished.
It's one of the most underrated parts of the recipe for the Thunder and their success this season. I mean, people talk about, the incredible defense and the new pieces that they added in the offseason, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander having this incredible explosion of a season. But a lot of what we saw this season was built starting 6 years ago. And a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander coming in, Lou Dort coming in alongside with him, those two guys playing together now for 6 years. You bring in guys like Kenrich Williams, Aaron Wiggins, and you start folding in these pieces. Then you get J-Dub, then you get Chet, and you start folding all these pieces together. Now these guys know each other really well. They know the system really well. And that continuity piece just tenfold just keeps folding on top of each other until you get to this point where you have an incredible season, but all of the habits that they have, that identity was built starting years and years and years ago, and that continuity cannot be understated.
Yeah, you look at some of the great teams in the history of the league, particularly the last 20, 30 years, and they're teams that had this innate understanding of each other. They could sort of play the music blind out there on the floor, and the Thunder is trying to build towards that. They understand that starting next season, it's back to 0-0. They don't get to carry over any of the, we'll tease a little bit here, any of the NBA record-setting point differential. They can't carry that over to next year. But what they can carry over is that a nonverbal understanding that they have with one another out there on the floor, that's going to continue to grow and develop as these guys play more and more years together.
Really quickly, there are a couple of guys that I just want to talk about, and one of them for me, Ajay Mitchell. I'm really happy for him, a guy that started out as a second-round pick, a two-way player, and got thrown into a lot of great opportunity this season. Some great minutes, some really great performances out there on the floor, and rose to the occasion. Got injured, had to sit out for a while, but then worked his way back so that he was able to play in the playoffs. And for him to be rewarded with this sort of extension, it is a great sign for him. And I can only imagine how happy he is and what this means to him, given where he started.
Yeah, for him and for Jay Will, another second round pick. These extensions may be a little bit less predictable than Shea, J-Dub, Chet. When those guys get drafted high in the lottery, these are the dreams and the hopes that they're having, and that the teams that are getting them are having. Is that for Shea, in his case, that he's signing a third contract, and for J-Dub and Chet, that this is their second contract coming off of their rookie contracts. This is what is sort of maybe anticipated in a best case scenario for these guys. For J. Will and AJ Mitchell, all of this is way more uncertain whether they're going to be able to have this type of stability in their careers. Yeah. But what's made that possible is the work ethic that they've brought to the team, the way that they've comported themselves as a member of the team. You just see that competitiveness, but also the love and care that they have for their guys around them. You see that brimming off of those guys, and that all factors in to why they're going to be able to be here for the next few years as well.
And how about this? Probably was like the best birthday present for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who literally just turned 27. Not even, I think it was 3 days ago when we're recording this podcast.
July 12th.
Happy belated birthday. Happy belated Shea Day. This is incredible because he's just 27.
Yep.
And when you think about him, but also the rest of this team, the youth is always what stands out. The maturity, the youth, and the runway ahead of this group. It's not promised anything, but really encouraging when you look down the line and you think, wow, they've accomplished so much and yet still so young.
Well, and if you think about a star player like Shea, he's coming off an MVP season, one of the greatest single seasons in NBA history. And he's 27. He's sort of in the beginning stages of the prime of his career. And he's not looking around at a roster that's full of guys that are older than him, that are, maybe breaking down physically or not able to, when he's looking ahead, he's actually looking at guys like Cason Wallace, who I haven't even mentioned yet, who still is on his rookie contract and can be extended in a few years. He's looking at J-Dub and Chet, who are now younger than him, but on extensions that are going to carry him through his extension as well. He's able to look and say, okay, I've got a team of guys who are only going to get better alongside me, as opposed to maybe looking and seeing that a team may be sunsetting to some degree. And so what a marvelous place for the Thunder organization to be in, to have its star player locked up, and then these young up-and-coming guys. J-Dub was an all-star, an all-NBA player. Chet Holmgren, obviously, has such great pedigree and the ability to be a total game changer on both ends of the floor. And then these other young guys, great role players alongside them. If you're Shea, what a great birthday present, because I'm signing up for something that I know can be quality and high quality for a long time.
You mentioned J-Dub, and I'm not sure if we had a chance to actually talk about this, but I mean, Sam Presti brought it up in his end-of-season press conference that J-Dub was gonna have to have surgery on that wrist that he was dealing with throughout the entirety of the playoffs, and I think it came as a surprise to a lot of people that the amount of pain that J-Dub was playing through the entirety of that postseason. And it really, when you hear that information, you hear that news, and you look back on what he was able to accomplish, given when the injury actually occurred, it makes you give J-Dub a lot of respect and realize just how tough and competitive that guy is.
For sure. And that's the type of competitor that this Thunder roster is filled by. This is what this team is all about, is laying it out there on the line every single night and not making any excuses. And I think that if you were a close observer, you could tell something was up with J-Dub. I mean, he had a ton of tape. He always had a brace during pregame. You could tell there was something going on. not many people knew the severity of what he was really dealing with. He, was able to battle through all of that and have some great games, have some games that he needed to bounce back from, but that's part of this team's DNA.
Yeah, and obviously now rewarded as well with not just a championship, but, a great contract down the end of the road. All right, let's get into now our Summer Moon stats of the season. This is going to be a fun one because the Thunder, to your point, Nick, a lot of record-breaking stats throughout the course of this year. And so I don't think we need to surprise each other with these, but I'll let you go first. Which one stood out to you so far?
Yeah, sure. Now, the Thunder is more process-based than outcome-driven.
Yeah.
And so that's why at the end of the season, Sam Presti said, look, if we didn't win Game 7, we wouldn't be sitting here and saying that, we had an unsuccessful season or that we, didn't feel good about where we were. But you love to see the team get rewarded with results on the scoreboard, and that's exactly what happened all year long. The Thunder went 84-21 this season. If you add up the regular season and the postseason, there's only a few teams ever to hit those marks. The 2016 Golden State Warriors and the 1996 and 1997 Chicago Bulls. You may be familiar with their work. Those are pretty dang good teams. The only teams to ever win 84 games in a season, and there's only a handful of teams that have ever lost only 21 games or fewer on their way to a title. So the Thunder in rarefied air when it comes to the total number of wins and the total number of losses in the season.
I mean, to be only one of 4 teams. Think of NBA history.
Yeah.
It's a lot of history. It's a lot of incredible teams, incredible players. And the Thunder putting themselves kind of in this very elite and exclusive category of teams that are known for complete dominance, right? When you think of that 16 Warriors team, everyone thinks
73-9,
they just think wins. That was the Dubs season, right? And then you think of the 96, 97 Bulls. I mean, those are the teams that just stand out in your brain. You can just immediately picture the faces of the players on that team and the things that they accomplished. And Oklahoma City putting themselves right smack next to them in this conversation just goes to show, to your point, this was process driven because in January, the Thunder were still talking about stacking days, stacking games, making sure that every practice get back to baseline. Well, they're saying the exact same thing in May when they're in the playoffs, stacking games, stacking days. And suddenly you look up and you've stacked up 84 wins. It's incredible to see.
Yeah, really remarkable. And they did it in convincing fashion.
Yeah.
And that leads me to the second stat is the Thunder between the regular season and the playoffs outscored their opponents by 1,243 points. And, that may just seem like a number that, okay, that's a lot of numbers. But that is the biggest point differential ever in the NBA when you combine a regular season and a postseason. So once again, just another example of the way that the Thunder was really dominant throughout the course of the season, but also dominant in games.
I'm going to add to this because I think this goes right alongside it. You mentioned the dominance that the Thunder was able to win games this season. Let's go to the playoffs specifically. Let's zoom in there.
Yeah.
The Thunder had 4 wins of 30 or more points in the playoffs, which is an NBA record. And a lot of those games, one was a game 7, a couple of, one was in the first round. These are high stakes games, and the Thunder putting together some very large margins of victory. And if you look over the course of the regular season, you see them having those sort of wins as well, which leads to the incredible point differential. I'll also add, it wasn't just the fact that they're, winning games. It's the fact that they're just simply not allowing the other team to score that much. It's not that the Thunder had this super explosive offense. It was an amazing offense, but it was really their defense and just whatever teams wanted to do, their fastball that they wanted to throw at the Thunder, they just couldn't do it offensively. So you saw a lot of low-scoring nights for some of the better offenses in the NBA.
Yeah, again, the Thunder, one of the record-setting defenses in NBA history. In fact, I think the largest gap in defensive rating between the number 1 team and the number 2 team in defensive rating for an entire season, I think 2.5 points higher, or excuse me, I should say lower or better than the Orlando Magic. And so you just think about that extrapolated over the course of a season, 2.5 points per 100 possessions.
Yeah.
That ends up being a ton of points over the course of an NBA season, fewer that you're allowing. And so just really, really remarkable formula that the Thunder came up with, which was tenacious defense, swarming defense, leading to run out offense. And if something wasn't there initially on a break, OKC was able to play with rhythm and flow and be able to rack up way more points
way more points. I love that stat, that because that speaks to the Thunder's dominance, of course, this season. This next stat speaks to their resilience, their maturity, and their ability to get back to baseline. The Thunder this season 19-2 after a loss, including 7-0 in the playoffs. Nick, you brought up this stat, and I want to let you talk about it. But before you do that, I want to talk about the one part of the season that jumped out in my mind when this stat comes up, because I think it's the perfect illustration of the maturity and the poise of this team, not making any excuses. In-season tournament. Do you remember the NBA Cup?
I'm aware of it, yes.
You were there?
Yeah. It feels like 6 years ago, but yes. Yeah.
It does not feel like that was a part of this past season. So obviously the Thunder, you're in Las Vegas for, I believe, 6 days. Is that correct? 5?
Yeah, 6 days, yeah.
It felt like an eternity. Time doesn't exist in Las Vegas. But you're there, and the Thunder made it obviously to the championship game, lost to the Milwaukee Bucks. A really tough loss. The Thunder really felt like they could have had that game, right? Well, right after that game, the Thunder don't go back to Oklahoma City. No, you're flying straight from Las Vegas all the way out to Florida. And I forget if the Thunder go to Orlando first or to Miami. They go to Orlando first.
Yep.
They beat the Orlando Magic. Well, that's the first night of a back-to-back. Great bounce-back game, I will say, for Oklahoma City. Defeating the Orlando Magic right after you lost to the Milwaukee Bucks. Well, then you go straight into the Eric Spoelstra's Miami Heat, which are going to force you to play your best basketball. You cannot skirt around. You can't trip into a win against the Miami Heat. And the Thunder put together, I think, one of the most resilient performances. You're exhausted. You just came off of, that was I believe, like a 6-hour flight. You leave at 10 o'clock in the morning. You land at 8 o'clock at night. Like, it was very strange. And then you go straight into a game against Orlando. You fly from Orlando to Miami, and you play a really good Miami Heat team, and you come up with the win. That resilience factor was something that has stuck with me the entirety of this season.
Incredibly impressive. And then we saw that in the playoffs too. I mean, every time that they ran up against an obstacle or a challenge, I'll never forget the words of Alex Caruso in that Denver series. You know, the Thunder spent the entire first round. They got down big in game 3 in Memphis, but they didn't lose in the first round. And then you get to the second round, and Alex Caruso says, I think that this Denver team is going to be the team that brings greatness out of us.
That's exactly right.
And so the Thunder goes down 1-0 at home on a heartbreaking buzzer beater. Comes out, wins by 30 in game 2. Loses again in game 3 in Denver. And that's when Alex Caruso says, I think that this Denver team's going to bring the greatness out of us. And OKC hangs in there. Big surge in the second half. Comes away with a tenacious, hard-fought victory in game 4. Comes back home. Rallies again in the second half in game 5. And so the Thunder they continue to repeat that. They did not lose consecutive games in the playoffs. And that is how you win an NBA championship.
And mind you, in the NBA playoffs, especially the finals, which went to 7 games, which means the Thunder lost 3 games in that series, you have to sit there for 2 days thinking about what happened, right? Having to answer questions after a loss, with all of the media from around the world descending on the city, asking you about the loss. What happened? What do you want to do better? All of these things. Are you
guys ready for this?
Can you handle this moment? Are you guys nervous? Like, there's so much opportunity to really kind of collapse into yourself a little bit and fall short and falter and trip and step. But the Thunder, so incredibly resilient and great at blocking out all of that noise, because in the playoffs, wins feel like you're on top of the world and losses feel like the end of the world. And for Oklahoma City to be able to kind of remain even keeled throughout all of that, get back to that baseline that Coach Daigneault talks so much about, so incredibly impressive.
And those are the values that, as you mentioned earlier, they've been working on for the last 5 years. And those are the values that now that this team can stay together, they have the opportunity to continue to hone those skills and those values that we saw work so well. They can continue to use those to their benefit moving forward. And that's something that Shea has talked about so much is, hey, we've seen that this process, that this mentality, that this approach works. Why would we stop now? Why would we take a shortcut? Why would we stop eating our vegetables now. This is what's got us to this point. And so that's what the Thunder's going to keep doing.
Going to keep stacking days, and it makes it very, very encouraging when you look at the horizon. And I'll tell you what, let's turn the page now to Summer League, because the Summer League, so many of the Thunder's players have gotten their start in Summer League. And I think of a guy like Lou Dort, first and foremost, who got his first scratch at the NBA, 2-way contract, and now he's first team all defense, just an elite player. And the Thunder has a lot of really exciting players to keep your eye on throughout Summer League. And Nick and I, don't you worry, we've been keeping tabs. We've been keeping track. And Nick, one guy I want to talk about first, Nikola Topic.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was drafted last season, didn't play at all throughout the course of this year, recovering from that knee injury and that knee surgery, but getting his feet wet in the NBA now. And you're starting to see why he was so intriguing to the Thunder and their scouting team, because he has got such great feel, high IQ, incredible passer, great touch out there on the court.
Yeah, a lot of clever plays and not necessarily like home run plays. Yes, he's had some of those.
He's had a couple of them.
I'm thinking of that over the top outlet pass on an
Ajay Mitchell
pass to Ajay Mitchell, way over the top.
Yep.
I mean, again, just some of those innate connection things that some of the great passers have. Yeah. And so, he's able to make that home run play, but then also just helping facilitate, get into offense. He's finding these little floaters and push shots and, wiggling his way all the way to the rim on offense. And he's been, pretty aggressive defensively. He's had a few steals in multiple different games. His play has continued to improve throughout the Summer League.
Yep.
So from Utah to Las Vegas, that's a really good sign as well, that a guy, as he's actually getting back into 5-on-5 action, is feeling more and more comfortable as the days are going along.
I was able to talk to him after that first game in Las Vegas, and my biggest curiosity going into that conversation was how you haven't played basketball in over a year at that point. How are you feeling? How are you handling all of this? And he said, it was really hard at first, because you go from not playing to then you go into a back-to-back, right? And he was like, I don't know. Do I nap?
Yeah.
Do I get a good night's sleep? I really don't know exactly how to navigate this, but he feels like with every single game, the rhythm just starts coming back, and you're noticing that out on the court. And I think it helps too, being with a guy like Ajay Mitchell, who's got some experience, who also high IQ ball handler. Those two really work well off of each other, and that inbounds pass is a perfect example of that. I mean, Nikola Topic, his eyes were up, and he was like kind of hinting at AJ, like, go long, bro, I got you, and threw it cross court. But I think those two have really been able to help each other. And talking to Connor Johnson, who's the head coach of the Thunder Summer League, he said that those two have been great leaders for this group, because obviously they know the terminology, they know the system, and there are a lot of new faces on this Summer League roster for Oklahoma City. And so the fact that Nikola and AJ are both there, kind of helping those guys, being really communicative, it's been really helpful.
Yeah, and AJ is a guy who is making one of those Summer League jolts that make you realize, okay, this guy is sort of elevating himself above the rest of the group here. He has been hyper efficient. He's been effective. He's been productive in different ways, whether it's with the assist, whether it's with the scoring, shooting. Ajay Mitchell is looking every bit that's the kind of player that you want and need to have in an NBA rotation. He was in the Thunder's rotation as a rookie. Now he's got a chance to build coming off that injury and potentially, highlight what he's able to do as, great change of pace player in that second unit for the Thunder next season.
Yeah, what I also love about AJ, just going back to the leadership factor, I went to the Thunder's practice after their first game. Yeah. And you could see AJ pulling guys aside, talking to them. And we had a chance to talk to one of the Thunder's he went undrafted, Chris Youngblood, right? Who's been playing really well as well, has put up some big numbers. And Chris said, AJ is he's kind of like my vet, which is crazy to think about, because AJ is just obviously going into his second season.
He might be 22 or 23 or something.
He's so young. Yeah. But Chris was just saying, any question I have, I'm going straight to AJ for it, and he's super helpful. Yeah. And it's just, that dynamic is very interesting. It's why Summer League is so special. It's such a unique situation for these players to be in. They're all new. They're all learning a lot of new information, basically drinking from a fire hose, and it's so contained, right? These guys might not play with each other again, this specific group, right? But there's a camaraderie and a cohesion that gets built here, and you can tell that, AJ's doing his best to kind of, make sure his fingerprints are there helping everybody.
Yeah, and even a guy like Thomas Sorber is there in Las Vegas. He's not able to compete right now as he's still coming off of foot surgery there at Georgetown, but making good strides and I think fully anticipated to be able to participate come training camp. But, for him and Brooks Barnhizer, who has been just electric on the defensive end so far. Brooks Barnhizer had 13 steals over the course of 2 games.
Good.
13 in 2 games is ridiculous.
No, it's incredible.
Yeah.
I have a great Brooks Barnhizer story.
Hit me.
So in this Salt Lake, he got hit in the mouth.
Okay.
Teeth fell out.
Oh my gosh.
Threw it over to the trainer. Keeps playing. Okay.
How many?
I think it was his front two teeth.
Both teeth?
I think. But then we get to Vegas and he's asked about this, right? Like, you took a nasty hit in the face. You just kept playing. He was like, yeah, I lost my front 2 teeth and then they fell out. It's kind of on a retainer. So I just kind of put them back in.
Okay.
And he was like, I'm getting my new teeth in August. But at this point, like, it really doesn't matter because if a tooth gets knocked out, I just get it fixed. And I was like, that is some toughness right there. That is some competitive stuff. That is very Thunder of him to that is some grit. You love to see that from a guy like Brooks Barnhizer.
It's so funny. At his draft press conference, he quoted J-Dub. And he said, pressure is a privilege.
Yep.
Well, little did he know that he was going to have almost the exact same start to his career that J-Dub did. If you remember, Dub got popped in the eye in Minnesota in game 1 of his
kept getting hit in the eye over and over again.
Well, Brooks, welcome to the NBA.
To the club.
Yeah, exactly. So
like perfect initiation. Yeah. But when he said it, he was smiling the whole time. He was like, I'll get one knocked out. It's fine. I'll just, get it fixed and it's fine. Just like whatever it takes to play at this level, I'm going to do it. And whatever it takes to help my team win, I'm going to do it. And not only does he have the toughness factor, but to your point, incredible defensive instincts out there on the court. And also great frame, good size for, a wing at his position. Like, it's very encouraging to see that from Brooks.
Yeah, it's a great system that the Thunder has going here to be able to identify and find guys that are going to be not just basketball fits, but institutional fits. I mean, you think about Ajay Mitchell last year.
Yeah.
He's saying that one of the things that really attracted him to the Thunder was the camaraderie that he saw from the group, throughout the course of the season, that he was watching very closely the way that this team acted with one another. And Brooks Barnhizer comes in and he says, I've been really watching Alex Caruso and Lou Dort, and like those are the guys that I want to play like. And if you're looking at role players and guys that are defensive stalwarts, and Thomas Sorber is saying, I really want to sit down and guard, and I really want to, operate dribble handoffs at the high post. It's like, these are the kind of guys that love ball and they love to play, and they love to play the Thunder way.
Yeah.
And to be able to identify those guys, have the assets and resources to go get them at the spots that you did in the draft. Effectively, you're the team that just won the NBA championship, and both in the first and the second round, the Thunder picked 15 spots higher than they would normally pick.
Exactly.
That's
rare.
Really, really rare and almost impossible to do. And the Thunder has been doing it for for 2 years in a row now, being able to pick substantially higher in the draft than they normally would. And guess what? They have a chance to do so again next year.
I was about to say they're perfectly positioned to do so moving forward as well. And that's just the genius that is the Thunder's front office, headlined, of course, by Sam Presti. Okay, let's get into what's brewing for Oklahoma City. I know we set up Summer League. You're like, man, I want to see these guys play. They sound amazing. Well,
couple more games for them, by the way.
Couple more games. Then you've got August to kind of decompress. Yeah. That's typically, the understood, unwritten rule of the NBA is just leave everyone alone in August. Yeah. No one talks about it, but it's kind of unwritten.
Harris already has like a do not disturb alert on her phone, specifically for me, and any text that I send her.
It says, Nick, try again in September.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all. It's an automatic reply. But then the Thunder will come back to training camp, and then we have our preseason schedule.
Unbelievable.
Already.
Yeah, crazy.
Things kick off October 5th, the Thunder gonna head out to Charleston. How about this, Nick?
Yeah.
I know you got so excited.
In Charleston? I mean, can you believe it?
You were excited.
It's only, a few hours from where I grew up in North Carolina, and you look at Charleston, it's like is somebody getting married?
It's like,
Like,
wait
wait, yeah, hold on. There's a.
Did I read that correctly?
We're going to Charleston on a weekend?
I was like, that's not how you spell Charlotte. Wait a second.
Yeah.
The Thunder are going to play the Hornets in Charleston, so it's a little bit of a detour there.
Yeah.
So that'll be pretty interesting. Followed by the Thunder then are going to go to Texas to take on the Mavericks. But no.
Not Dallas.
Not in Dallas.
Yeah.
This is going to take place in Fort Worth. So a couple of destination preseason games for Oklahoma City.
Yeah, so if you're trying to follow the Thunder around in the
Yeah.
preseason, make a little long weekend out of it, you're going to have to try to find a way to get from Charleston to Dallas quickly. But
Good luck.
I'm sure, DFW is a big airport. You can figure that one out.
Oh, they'll make that happen.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the 5th and the 6th. The Thunder opens up preseason with a back-to-back. You gotta hit the ground
Of
running.
course,
No
yeah.
better way to start
Yeah.
for Oklahoma City than just get right to it. Then the
Yeah.
Thunder comes back home, and then they play the Charlotte Hornets in Paycom Center. That's going to be on October 9th. And then on October 11th, Thunder heads out for a 2-game road trip in the preseason, going out to Indiana, rematch against the Pacers on October 11th, and then going to stay in the Midwest, going to go to Milwaukee to play the Bucks on October 14th.
So that's the second road trip of the preseason. I can't believe there's 2 preseason road trips, but here we are coming off of the longest season in team history.
Why not?
And
right?
then you finish off the preseason slate October 17th versus Denver in Paris. The next game that the Thunder plays after that, it's going to be ring night.
Sure
for these
is.
Thunder players. Really, really, really special. Going to be so exciting to be inside Paycom Center.
Oh my
when that
gosh.
banner gets unfurled, when the guys get to put those rings on their fingers and they get to go out and ball. It's going to be a few weeks before we find out who the Thunder plays that night, what the regular season schedule is going to look like for those 82 games. But this certainly will be a nice appetizer in the preseason. I'm glad that we've got this schedule sorted out for you.
Nick.
Yeah.
I got misty-eyed at the trophy ceremony when the Thunder won.
Yeah.
Naturally. Emotions are high.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine ring night.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to have to pack it all up and put it away because there's an actual game happening right after that. It's going to be an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, you're going to have to get ready. I'm going to be doing my opening hit
That's
before the tip-off and be like,
oh, sorry. Now for your board fact.
Yeah. And that's, that's what makes all of this so exciting is to be able to see so many people in this organization who have been with the team for decades get to have that feeling of being an NBA champion. And then for these guys who are so young and so early in their careers to be able to pass every mental test, to be able to have the guts to hang in there, win games when they were surely nervous, and to be able to do so at such a young age. One last summer moon stat that I'll leave you all with is the Thunder, the second youngest team in NBA history to win an NBA title. And that means that the runway is still long, and this team is going to expect of itself to continue to get better because they know the rest of the league, they're all coming after them, and they're all going to try to beat this Thunder team. They're going to line up to try to figure out how to do that. So the Thunder, they've got to be better next year than they were last year. That's the great challenge in front of it.
One thing I know about this team, they're up for the task. They love that challenge, and it makes you really excited to see what's going to be going on for Oklahoma City this upcoming season. But still have a lot of summer league left, and me and Nick, we've got you covered. We're going to keep tabs on everybody. Also, schedule release coming out soon for Oklahoma City. Keep your eye out for that.
Early mid-August.
Early to
get ready for that.
mid-August, of course. We'll keep you updated on that as well. But for now, that wraps up today's episode. Thanks for catching up on everything with us here today. Thank you so much to our producer, Matt Bishop. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, Thunder up, and catch you later.